The principal people are the chosen ones. The Mayan long count calendar and Isaiah's prophecy of the awakening both mark the exact same year. That's Isaiah's fruitful field. Our people have been waking up en masse.
For thousands of years, the Mayan fire ceremony has been a ritual of prayer, healing, and divination.
The Quiche Maya called themselves the chosen few of many trees. This was the age of sacred trees. Hisakira Messi Epafuncha.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up out of your sleep, 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 sleep.
Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Wake up, Jacob. Whether the Negro believes herself an Indian or believes herself an Israelite, what she must do about it is the same regardless. She must awaken. And she must return to the sacred fire. And no man can return to a thing he does not remember. Know your history. In past presentations, I've shown you this spiritual timeline. Today, I will finally explain where it comes from. We'll be focusing on the last half of the spiritual timeline, and in future presentations, I'll be explaining the earlier ages also. Learning this, your soul will be drawn to the sacred fire. You won't be able to contain it after this. You'll finally see where the Negro fits in the grand scheme of human history. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Knowing this will set your soul on fire. Are you ready? This timeline is a totem timeline, and it tracks 8 ages of human history in total. Each age is given a totem, not by me, but by our ancestors. The last 7 ages out of the 8 are the ages of the 4th dispensation, or 4th version of the inhabited world. Since the original creation, there have been 4 worlds, 4 evolutions of that original creation, with 3 resets to mark the end of one and the beginning of the next. The 8th age on this timeline is the age we just entered, the age of shared existence. It's simultaneously the first age of the 5th world and the last age of the 4th world. The 5th world was born on December 21st, 2012, and many of you may recognize that date. The 4th world originally began on 4 Acha 8 Kumku. The first age of the spiritual timeline is like the 8th, in that it was simultaneously the end of the 3rd world and the beginning of the 4th world. So the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian explains it this way. Quote, December 21st, 2012 marked the end of an important cycle in the Maya long count calendar. This cycle is composed of 13 periods called Baktun, of 144,000 days each. This 13 Baktun cycle began on the long count calendar date 13.0.0.0.04 Acha 8 Kumku and spans 5,125.366 solar years. Stela C records this date, considered by the Maya to be the creation date of the current or 4th era. When this was written, we were still in the 4th world. The monument is at the archaeological site of Iroquois, Guatemala. This creation date corresponds to August 11th, 3114 BCE, end quote. Today, we study the transition from Fourth World to Fifth World by reviewing how the Fourth World began. We're searching for the significance of the sacred fire to the Negro tribes, and we seek to understand the new Baktun, the first cycle of 144,000 days. The timing of the events that led to this is so uncanny that I guarantee it'll blow your mind.
Unehiya's new series drops receipts you don't want to miss. This time, the Loa goes mining for copper again, but she ends up striking gold. We going into the jungle for this one.
What's crazy about this one, I think, is how she shows one of the last tribes to get conquered by white people. They kept to themselves long enough for modern photography to capture their evolution from being black to being Hispanic. And that's a receipt I think we all need to have in our back pocket for whenever they tell you we're not Indians.
Get exclusive access to all new episodes of the copper mining series by joining Unehiya as a Red Stick stakeholder. Stakeholder memberships support the campaign for federal recognition of foundational Black Americans as American Indians. Click the link in the description box to start binge watching the copper mining series today.
The beginning, the start of the Fourth World, was the end of the Third. This was the age of sacred trees. We'll learn more from the Iroquois folk tradition of creation, courtesy of the version hosted by Maricopa Community Colleges. It's specifically the Haudenosaunee variant of the story. Quote, y'all ain't even ready for this. Quote, it was called the Tree of Life. Do you see this? Do you see? It was called the Tree of Life. On that tree grew many different kinds of fruit. Also, there were blossoms on that tree, and those blossoms glowed. They lit up Sky World. Pay attention to that. Sky World. The beings in Sky World were told not to disturb that tree. But one day, a woman, not a normal woman, because she's in Sky World, a woman who was expecting a baby asked for a drink of tea made from the roots of the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life. Her name was Atitsiakayon. Atitsiakayon, which means mature flower. Atitsiakayon. When her husband started to dig around near the bottom of the tree to get at the roots, the dirt caved in, and some say that the tree fell down. Okay, skip a couple lines. The tree fell from Sky World, and she falls through the hole to follow the tree. Continuing. Nevertheless, she grabbed some seeds from the Tree of Life as she fell. Seeds from the Tree of Life. Because she fell through the hole in the sky, many people refer to her as Sky Woman. Sky Woman. Not a normal woman, Sky Woman. Down below, there was a flock of water birds flying through the air. Skip a couple sentences, it gets redundant here. They caught her. These birds caught her, that's the point. They tried to bring her back up to Sky World. but she was too heavy, and so they lowered her to the water below. A giant turtle said that they would put her on his back. Okay, skip some more, because it's just saying randomness now. She dropped the seeds from the tree of life, and they started to grow right away. When she finished dancing and singing, there was land and plant life as far as she could see. And we'll skip one more time for two final sentences we need to catch, which say, some time went by, and the sky woman gave birth to a baby girl. The baby girl grew up. And then it says, the daughter had become the bride of the spirit of the west wind. The spirit of the west wind. Remember that part as well. The spirit of the west wind. Okay. That last part will matter later. And we're going to come back to this, by the way, in a future presentation so that we can focus more on the sacred trees. But there were many sacred trees. The Hebrew tradition focuses more on the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but it does also mention the tree of life, right? In fact, when the Tanakh first mentions the tree of life, have you ever noticed that it speaks of this tree in passing as if you're already supposed to be familiar with it? Bereshith, Genesis 2, verse 9, quote, and out of the ground made Yahweh Elohim, meaning the powers of existence, to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. End quote. Humans likely only know about the tree of life because of it being revealed to Big Chief Peaceful One, now known as Emperor Shlomo or King Solomon, who very likely wrote or contributed to this part of Genesis. For a breakdown on why I say that, you can watch Ayob Natsir's video entitled, Who Actually Wrote Genesis? But the point is, there were many sacred trees before there were ever any humans. Notice also that the tree of life is randomly introduced with no explanation about what it is. That suggests the reader is expected to already be familiar with this concept, which means you should expect that there's a whole lore behind this tree that the Tanakh isn't explaining because the original readers of Bereshith were people who knew it all too well already. It's not just the Iroquois Confederacy who knew of the tree of life. The Cherokee, who speak an Iroquois language, also seem to have had some knowledge of sacred trees early in creation. But I want to focus on the southeastern ceremonial complex, which was the non-Mississippian part of Creek Indian society. We'll talk about why I say non-Mississippian in a future presentation also. For their perspective, we look to the Peach State Archaeological Society for an explanation on the southeastern ceremonial complex, which was a major portion of Creek society. Quote, most SECC imagery, SECC means Southeastern Ceremonial Complex, most Southeastern Ceremonial Complex imagery focuses on cosmology and the supernatural beings who inhabit the cosmos. The cosmological map encompassed real, knowable locations, whether in this world or the supernatural reality of the other world. What world are they talking about? What are they talking about? SECC iconography. How's it going to be pause. How's it going to be real, knowable locations in this world and the supernatural reality of the other world? Unless the supernatural reality of the other world has real locations in it because it's a real realm, right? SECC iconography portrayed the cosmos in 3 levels. The above world or overworld, remember Sky World from the Iroquois tradition. It's a real thing. Sky World. Why? Because it's just the sky. It's and outer space. All of that's above you. Sky World from the Iroquois. So the above world or overworld was the home of the thunderers, the sun, moon, and morning star or red horn, he who wears human heads for earrings, and represented order and stability. See, that's just outer space and the atmosphere of, above Earth. The middle world was the Earth that humans live in. The beneath world, or underworld, was a cold, dark place of chaos that was home to the underwater panther and corn mother, or quote-unquote old woman who never dies. These three worlds were connected by an axis mundi, usually portrayed as a cedar tree or a striped pole reaching from the underworld to the overworld, end quote. Wake up, Jacob! 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 This is the tree of life, and it's actually the chief cedar tree. All cedar species are clans of the same arboreal tribe, and this is the anointed tribe of trees, or the Israel of trees, the arboreal totem of Yatzarel. The southeastern ceremonial complex rendered the tree of life as a cedar as a way of saying that the tree of life is the Abraham from which many great tree tribes come. Cedars in particular are commonly called red cedars or red trees in North America, and in the Middle East they have a darker reddish hue, very comparable to our own brown skin tone. Cedars are also on all continents, scattered to the four winds just like us. That's why the Tanakh constantly uses cedar trees to mark periods of Israelite history. They are our totem. Guys, what we're about to talk about is a game changer. In short, Unehiya is a small team of highly capable individuals trying to lobby Congress for federal recognition of Black Americans as pre-Columbian American Indians. I'm one of them. I'm the public information officer, so I'm out front recruiting and providing information. I'm also handling PR because of my background in print journalism. Right now, we're focused on a well-planned lobbying campaign to get the Negro recognized as the American Indian, and our campaign strategy hinges on exploiting a quasi-legal precedent in an amendment proposal for a dormant Senate resolution that already exists. I want to appeal to everyone watching this video to support the campaign by joining Unehiya. And guess what? You don't even have to know a single thing about politics or history. Just help us build our list of demands and help each other use Unehiya's genealogy tools to identify your ancestral tribes. Vote yes or no on the hundreds of decisions we have to make. Participate in our tribal town hall meetings after every new moon. Look, I'm not asking for super chats or any other donations to my own pocket. If you've got any spare change, use it to become a stakeholder in Unehiya, which can be done for as little as $7. You can opt into stakeholder leadership for about $20 if you've got the budget for it, which gives you greater voting power on the decisions we make as a tribe. Believe it or not, it only takes 5 minutes to help us reclassify ourselves as Indians. Let's go! In the second episode of the Energy Mysteries series, I explained to you that Yaiwa is natural selection. Most people missed that episode because we did an A/B test on it, so it didn't show up in your feeds. Go check it out. I'll put it on the end screen. But haven't you noticed that in the Tanakh, people keep getting anointed for things? And it's not just people. The wood of the tabernacle came from trees that were anointed. Stones were anointed to build altars. To be anointed means to be chosen for something and set apart for it. Yaiwa constantly chooses things for various purposes because she is natural selection. In order for human beings to become the dominant species we've become, Yaiwa chose certain ethnic groups to drive human progress at various times throughout history. And that's really what this presentation is about. To understand how this works, you must understand the Ichiti principle of progress, which is that progress is the fruit of opposition. Just as competition has driven technological advancement, it also led empires towards socio-political advancement. Tribal confederacies begat theocratic monarchies, which eventually begat communist socialism and representative democracy. Our economies have become more sophisticated, and scientifically, we understand more about the natural world around us than ever. All of this is because competition pushes us forward. Progress is the fruit of opposition. For this purpose, Yahweh anointed more than just one ethnic group, not just Yatzarel. The esoteric truths of the universe were given to multiple peoples, but all from the same source. The youngest of those groups was given the eternal covenant to guide the progress of humanity from that point forward. That's our job. But that daughter of Zion had to fight the other two to even be seated in that role. Isaiah chapter 19, verses 24 and 25, quote, "In that day shall Yatzarel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, whom Yahweh Shabaoth, the armies of natural selection, shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, Egypt, my people. We are the third with Egypt and with Assyria. Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands. Assyria, the work of my hands, and Yatzarel, mine inheritance." End quote. Existence claims Egypt as a civilization of her own making. You're reading the words of existence. She is telling you that she claims Egypt as a civilization of her own making. Nature claims Assyria as an empire of her own making. Natural selection chose certain ethnic groups to dominate at certain times. That's why, when the Assyrian Empire falls, existence also claims credit for their downfall, and she mourns for them in a way that's observable in nature. Ezekiel chapter 31, verses 3, and then 9 to 11, and then we'll top it off with verse 15. Starting with verse 3, "Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches." It's just speaking metaphorically here. The Assyrian, but it chose a very interesting metaphor to use. The Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of an high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. Skip to verse 9. "I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of Elohim envied him. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Yahweh, the masters of existence, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and he hath shot up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in his height, I have therefore delivered him." I have done this. I have therefore, this is Yahweh speaking, the Great Spirit. "I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness." Skip to verse 15. "Thus saith the masters of existence, in the day when he went down to the grave, I caused a mourning. I covered the deep for him, and I restrained the floods thereof. I caused a mourning. I covered the deep." The deep is the ocean. "I restrained the floods thereof." Any great water is the deep, and restraining the floods, this is drought. "And the great waters were stayed," that's drought. "And I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, and all the trees of the field fainted for him." All the trees of the field fainted for him. In Lebanon, where the tree that Lebanon is known for, this region is known for, is the cedar tree. So we've talked about this in a recent live stream. The cedars of Lebanon perished at that time, and Lebanon suffered a drought to naturally initiate this. For forests, drought can also lead to wildfires. This is why you shouldn't be trying to find the real Lebanon in America on the basis that the Bible talks about gigantic cedar trees and the fact that they're bigger in America than they are in the Middle East, which is true, the real Lebanon should not still have massive cedar trees today. The Great Spirit put them to sleep, caused them to faint, meaning she didn't destroy them, but she made them endangered. The whole point of all of this is that the awakening is directly tied to the cedar trees, the descendants of the tree of life. That's why our ancient ancestors all centered their creation folktales around the tree of life. Now we go to Isaiah 29, which is a prophecy of the ancient spirit of sleep and the modern awakening we're experiencing right now. When black folk first started talking about being woke, we were unconsciously channeling the ancestors from this passage. And it's not just an awakening for Yatzarel, it's an awakening for the cedar trees of Lebanon too. The red tree and the red man awaken together. This is the word of the wind lord, the master of breath. And for reference, Hisakira Messi Epafuncha. Isaiah chapter 29, verses 10 to 12. Quote, "For Hisakira Messi, the master of breath, hath poured out upon you the wind of deep sleep." Ruach being wind or spirit, right? All the same word. Wind, spirit, breath, all the same word. For Hisakira Messi, the master of breath, hath poured out upon you the wind of deep sleep, and hath poured and have closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers, hath he covered, and the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, Read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. End quote. Do you remember who you are? Remember who you are? Remember who you are? This is why there are so many interpretations of every little thing in the Tanakh. The only people who can find the transcendental meaning of everything in it are those who wrote it. But it was prophesied in the ancient day that we would lose our discernment for these things. The words of the book were sealed from us. The vision was taken away from our seers. This gradually became the case while the Empire was at war with the Assyrian Empire, the work of Gichi Manito's hands. Skip down to verses 17 and 18 though. Quote, Is it not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest? And in that day, shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. End quote. Do you remember who you are? Remember who you are? Remember who you are? So in that day, we will be able to understand the writings again. In which day? The day that Lebanon is turned into a fruitful field. And that fruitful field is going to be viewed as or treated like a forest, even though it's not really a forest. When it says Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, shall be turned is a hifil conjugation of the Hebrew verb shub. And in that form, and with this context, it should be translated as shall be caused to return. So Lebanon shall be caused to return to the condition of a fruitful field, and phrasing it that way suggests someone will do something to make it happen. That's human intervention. According to a 2017 document from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, quote, The Lebanon Reforestation Initiative, LRI, the Lebanon Reforestation Initiative, a project funded by the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and implemented by the U.S. Forest Service, was established in 2010, pay attention, It was established in 2010 to undertake an ambitious program of technical assistance and institutional support on sustainable forestry practices and wildfire management in economically depressed and environmentally degraded regions of Lebanon. LRI has transformed the way native trees are grown and planted in Lebanon and assisted diverse communities throughout the country to restore more than 700 hectares. Hectares are bigger than acres, by the way. More than 700 hectares of communal forest lands, they call it forest lands, right? By planting more than 500,000 native trees. 500,000 native trees by the time this was written, and this was in 2017. Okay, and they kept going since then. End quote. Here, but they kept going. The focus of this initiative is cedar trees, because those are the trees for which Lebanon is historically known. This is a man-made forest of sorts that pales in comparison to the original cedar woodland forests of Lebanon, which is exactly why that scripture was worded the way it was worded. It would be caused to return to being a fruitful field. And it didn't say that fruitful field would be a forest. Rather, it would be esteemed as a forest. Here's the most important part. The initiative began in 2010. I told you to pay attention to that. But all its progress was administrative until 2011. In 2011, they mostly focused on strategizing how to improve the survivability of the trees, and they experimented with direct seeding tactics and did tests called adaptive management field trials. So 2010 was administrative. It was a whole year of administrative tasks. 2011 was a whole year of basically research. An October 2012 blog article from Development Seed shows that they were still mapping sites for planting as of the time that blog article was posted, in October 2012. Dave Johnson wrote, quote, "I'm in Beirut all week working with the Lebanon Reforestation Initiative mapping team. I'm working with the mapping team on new ways to publish their environmental analysis to stakeholders, researchers, and partner NGOs." End quote. They were still showing plans to stakeholders. That means not a lot of planting was being done yet. And again, that's October 17, 2012. This is the beginning. And almost exactly 2 months later, we hit the birthday of the fifth world, according to the Mayan long count calendar. December 21st, 2012. That is when they started planting thousands of trees based on all that grant funding and research. And as thousands of trees were planted, thousands of Israelites, thousands of Yatzaralim started waking up around the world. That year was also the year that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu celebrated the Black Hebrew community in Dimona, Israel, which suddenly shined an internet spotlight on the Black Hebrew Israelite theory. Haaretz reported, quote, "Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu highlighted the community's participation in the Israel Defense Forces in a letter that was read aloud during the ceremony. Quote, On this opportunity, I want to send my blessing to the members of the cooperative society that is working towards the inclusion of the Hebrew Israelite community in Israeli society at large, the letter said. The letter stated, your integration in recent years into the Israel Defense Forces reflects your status as an integral part of the Israeli experience and of its institutions. End quote. This was the first newsworthy mention of the Black Hebrew Israelite community. And after this, Black Hebrew Israelite internet content exploded. Their numbers have grown exponentially ever since. Those of you who remember the research guy from before he fell back asleep may recall that he used to brag a lot that he had been making content about our Indian identity longer than Dane Calloway and everybody else. And he would boast that he started doing this as early as 2013. 2013, the first year of the fifth world, the first year of the awakening. Wake up, Jacob! 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 Wake up! Do you see the mathematical precision? The mathematical precision of the Mayan calendar's alignment with the Tanakh? The long count marked December 21st, 2012 as the birth of the fifth world. And that appears to be almost exactly when cedar trees started being planted in mass numbers in Lebanon. They're now up to about 1 million cedars planted. That's Isaiah's fruitful field getting celebrated as a forest. And while that project's been going, our people have been waking up en masse, in mass numbers. Apply the Ichiti principle of supernature. Prophecy proves power. This is the Ichiti principle of supernature. Prophecy proves power. A prophecy foretells the future. If a prophecy comes true, and you can personally observe proof of its fulfillment, that is supernatural. The takeaway should be this. Those who say we're Indians and those who say we're Israelites, they're both saying the same thing whether they realize it or not. The Mayan long count calendar and Isaiah's prophecy of the awakening both mark the exact same year. Cedar trees are totems of principal peoples. The principal people are the chosen ones, and there are various chosen tribes for different things. That's why the cedars of Lebanon fainted for the fall of the Assyrians, but the same cedars are awakened for the awakening of Yatzarel. Unehiya means principal people in the Cherokee tongue. Diné means real people in the Navajo tongue. Anishinaabe means original people in the original tongue of the Chippewa, Potawatomi, Odawa, and Sioux Indians. The word Maya means chosen few in the Mayan language, and Quiche means many trees. Therefore, the Quiche Maya called themselves the chosen few of many trees. Do you remember who you are? The Maya acknowledged the exact same axis mundi concept that the Creek Indians recognized, and we'll talk about why in a future presentation. Point is, the cedar trees are a totem of the original people. There were many original peoples, but only the Yatzaralim were given an eternal covenant. It was a blood contract between Yatzarel and existence itself. There was a clause in that blood contract which said existence would reestablish our empire once we awaken to our identity again. But that clause expects us to also do something when we awaken. Devarim, Deuteronomy 30, verses 1 to 3. Quote, "And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, the dynasty and the slavery, being on top and being on bottom, which I have set before thee." Deuteronomy 28, that's what she's referring to. She's referring back to Deuteronomy 28, where she laid out for you or set before you all the blessings and all the curses that we as a people were gonna go through in the future. Okay? "And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee," in Deuteronomy 28, "and thou shalt call them to mind," meaning recall those things, remember those blessings and those curses that I listed for you among all the nations. That's the awakening, is when you remember all these things while you're among the nations, whither your powers of existence hath driven thee. That's the diaspora. Are you catching all of this? It shall come to pass. This is crazy. Do you understand this is crazy? It shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee in Deuteronomy 28, and thou shalt call, when you remember those things while you're among the nations, whither your powers of existence hath driven thee, hath scattered thee, and shalt return unto your powers of existence. So not just that you remember, but also when you then also return unto your powers of existence, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then your powers of existence will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither your powers of existence hath scattered thee. Turn thy captivity, meaning turn your situation around. Your powers of existence, then at that time, your powers of existence, once you do those two things, once you awaken and then once you return to your powers of existence, your powers of existence will turn your captivity around, turn this bondage, this oppression, this state of being subservient to another nation around, and have compassion on you, and return and gather you from all the nations your powers of existence scattered you to. Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up! Stop playing! We're knee deep into the awakening right now, right on schedule according to Isaiah 29, which we're able to cross-reference with the Mayan calendar for double confirmation. Once we and our children awaken and return to our powers of existence, which are manitug, literally mysterious energies, now known as the elements and the forces of nature that bind and repel them, then and only then will Gichimanito, the Great Spirit, turn our captivity around and gather us from all the nations we've been scattered to. That is how our empire is reborn in the fifth world. Now, what does it mean to return to your powers of existence? It means upholding our end of the contract. This is what we must do. Go back to the contract and keep up our end of the bargain. That contract was an oath, and there are rituals that serve as a sign of that oath. Yahweh told Moshe to give us this message. Exodus 31, verses 13 to 16, quote, "Speak thou also unto the children of Yatzarel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I, nature, doth sanctify you." The words am and that are not actually present in the Hebrew. They put that in the English, but they're not really there. It really just says, that ye may know that I, nature, doth sanctify you. Guys, when she says it is a sign between us and her, what she means is that Shabbat is like our signature on the dotted line of a contract. And in the modern day, any lawyer will tell you that the signature basically is the oath, because the whole thing's null and void without consent. The sign of the oath is as the oath itself. This is the Ichiti principle of swearing. The sign of the oath is as the oath itself. Do you know what the Hebrew word is that they translated into sign in English? It's spelled O-T with a line under the T, which gives it a TH sound. It's pronounced oath. This is actually the origin of the English word oath. Sabbath is the oath between us and nature, inasmuch as it is our signature on the dotted line. Continuing. Quote, ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. So this is serious. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to nature. Whosoever doeth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Yatzareel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, for a perpetual covenant. That's an eternal contract. Do you remember who you are? Remember who you are? Remember who you are? Remember who you are? This oath is forever, and our sign must be forever. This is why we must all withdraw from the 9-to-5 job market. You can't keep the Sabbath properly in most jobs because you're not in control of your own schedule, yet they pigeonhole us into working 9-to-5 jobs. You can't hunt without a license. You can't fish without a permit. You can't even farm without a license, and you can't build your own house wherever you want unless the city agrees to let you build it. All the ways your ancestors sustained themselves are harshly regulated, so that you have to be dependent on the bourgeoisie of this capitalist economy. This traps the Indian, but it also traps all other ethnic groups too. This means after we awaken, we must free ourselves and even free each other from poverty to create an interdependent Indian society again, and we must all be entrepreneurs. Our employees should be our own offspring. This allows us to keep Shabbat. And once we can keep Shabbat, what does that entail? Numbers, Bamidbar, Numbers, chapter 28, verses 9 and 10. And on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2/10 deals of flour, for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and the drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath, beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. End quote. Yes, sacrifices will be made by fire on Shabbat in our future reunited empire, just as they were in the ancient day. Why fire? Because we're returning to our powers of existence, the elements and the forces of nature that bind and repel them. Fire is one of the holy armies of elements I've been talking about in the Energy Mysteries series. Notice that the burnt offering for Sabbath is made beside the continual burnt offering. That's the sacred fire. It's always going every day on behalf of the entire empire. Always. Ezekiel chapter 46 verses 13 to 14. Quote, thou shalt daily prepare a burnt offering unto Hisakidemesi of a lamb of the first year without blemish. Thou shalt prepare it every morning. Thou shalt daily prepare a burnt offering. Thou shalt prepare it every morning. And thou shalt prepare a meat offering for it every morning. The 6th part of an ephah and the 3rd part of an hin of oil to temper with fine flour, a meat offering continually by a perpetual ordinance unto Hisakidemesi. This is in the future temple. This fire is perpetual. It is continual. It can never be allowed to stop burning. And the Creek Nation acknowledges this to this day because the Mississippian Creeks gained this tradition from the Ichiti Indians of the Southeastern Ceremonial Complex, which are my ancestors, and very likely many of yours if you're known as African American today. The historical marker database tracks all plaques, statues, monuments, and other historical markers nationwide. One such monument is the Creek Nation Council Oak Memorial, which is a red granite statue of fire precast to look like copper in the sunlight. Here's what they write about your ancestors. Quote, fire is a revered element of many sacred rituals of the Muskogee Creek people. The sacred fire represents the divine masculine of the Ipofuncha, the creator, to which all things are connected. The sacred fires were integral to the religious, political, and social systems long before the first European contact. The ashes of our ceremonial fires from each of the tribal towns were carried over the long march to be rekindled here. We carried the ashes to keep the embers alive. Well, not we. These are really the half-breeds doing this, because this was the Trail of Tears. But you get what I'm saying. The sacred fires are built with logs pointing to the east, west, north, and south. The four cardinal directions. There's the four winds. This is the basis of many traditional Muskogee concepts. The earliest Muskogee teachings instruct that our sacred fires are to burn eternally. If extinguished, the Muskogee will perish. During the rituals, dances, and prayers, the smoke rises from the sacred fires and it fades into the skies. The smoke carries the messages of the Muskogee people to the Creator. End quote. Do you understand what we're reading? This is the sacred fire, aligned with the four winds. It is to be eternal. Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! Wake up, Jacob! The awakening is now. You must wake your loved ones to the truth so that we can return to the sacred fire as a family, the remnant of the principal people.
Loklach tak nawal ich, shiyakir loklach kunsipach. Chanamak nikaw, chanamak ritat, chiwlaba chitaba nikaw.
Are you afraid of fire? After witnessing what happened to my community in Los Angeles, I've been terrified of it. Fire can be devastating. It can destroy everything. But it also transforms, it alchemizes, it rejuvenates ecosystems. It's part of nature. And to the Maya, fire must be deeply honored and respected. For thousands of years, the Mayan fire ceremony has been a ritual of prayer, healing, and divination, where sacred offerings are placed with intention. Through the fire, the Maya communicate with ancestors, spirit guides, and the cosmos. Throughout Guatemala, indigenous Mayan culture, including the fire ceremony tradition, is still alive today, passed down through generations. I believe that learning from the elders who carry this ancient knowledge is critical to maintaining part of our humanity that sometimes feels like it's slipping away in what we've chosen to prioritize in modern society. But I believe that indigenous wisdom holds golden keys to harmonizing with nature if we're willing to listen.